Good evening, ladies and gents. If you can hear as you're coming in, if you can hear my voice and you can see my screen, please do raise your hand on the Zoom application so that I know that we're in business. If you can see my screen and you can hear my voice, please do let me know by raising a hand or by sending a text on the brilliant. Hands coming in. Evening, ladies and gents. It is 15 September 2021. Njabulo Nsibande here. This is Follow the Trader series. Kicking it off with the offshore stuff, the 721. So we got across to the short side on the S&P 500, but I was chatting with Simon a little bit earlier. He's not trading on the long side, or rather on the short side. He's trading on the long side only. So he's gonna have to wait for these two to cross. To recross back higher, and if you look at the S&P 500 chart, if you start to zoom out a little bit, that trend has been going for quite some time, and it looks like it's trading at support, violating it a little bit. But we'll see if this trend line support holds. Then maybe the 7 moving average will recross back above the 2021 simple moving average. On Russell 2000, in fact, Russell 2000 has been sideways for some time. In fact, since earlier beginning of the year, it's stayed in this range for pretty much the entirety of this year. We'll see if these two recrosses back high again, and then he'll most likely be triggered back in, but. I don't think Russell 2000 will do anything of significance below that $2,300 dollars level. And Nasdaq is still pointing on the long side. In fact, if you were long on the Nasdaq, today was the stop out. You would have got stopping out, as it looked like the index is going to close below that 21 exponential moving average. So coming back to the indices, I got stopped on a couple of trades this week. Just sort them by date, close date. That's more like it. So I got stopped this today, I got stopped today on SAPI. And guys, just a reminder: if you have questions on the chart that I'm on, feel free to pop a question on the Q&A box. But otherwise, I'm gonna park that to the end. But as we going on, feel free to send in the chat request in the Q&A box or in the chat box. So I got stopped out on. Let me bring back my moving averages. On SAPI, as it violates that 200 exponential moving average, but if you zoom out a little bit, it's just holding. It looks like today it was holding the support of the lower box. So once it back above that 50-day exponential moving average, around that 41 rand, 42 rand levels, then I'll start to rebuild my position with a stop loss just below today's low. I also got stopped yesterday on my mouse is acting weird today. I also got stopped on Pepco. I am not 100% sure if you guys have any idea what happened on Pepco with the giant gap. I do suspect it has something to do with that style of litigation. I have no idea what happened, what caused that gap. If you have any ideas of what happened, please drop something in the Q&A or in the chat box. I also got stopped on Vodacom, but I will jump back in this this position. I'll be buying myself 9.6 shares with a stop loss there to 132.90. I did a quick scan before we jump back in. So I'm going to be rebuilding this position. The stock came back to test and hold the 50-day exponential moving average. So today, rather tomorrow at the open, I'm going to rebuild this position with a stop loss just below that low there, just below the 50-day exponential moving average, around that 132.90. And I think lastly, I also got stopped on SureBright. Let me quickly have a quick gander at the calendar. Yeah, I think this is the last one. I got stopped on SureBright. That bullish engulfing candle, they just fetched my stop, touched it in 10. So I'm going to wait for a close back above into the higher box at 184.44. I'll rebuild my position at that point with a stop loss just below that bullish engulfing candle there. So Paul is noting that I took quite a bigger than normal loss on Pepco. Let me just jump back in here. And I lost about 3.5% on. You're quite right. I lost about 3.5% on Pepco, and that was because the market gapped through my stop, and there was nothing I could do about it. I didn't have my stop in the market, but the way that stop losses work, thick markets triggers the sale at market. It doesn't trigger at my stop loss level, but it just triggers it at market, which means from time to time, events like this will happen, like a single event. Single event risk hits and then gaps through your stop, and then you take a loss slightly bigger than you had planned for, which is why positioning sizing is so important, because even when such gaps happen, they don't they don't kill you. Sure, it's a few it's 2.5% more than I wanted to lose on the trade, but that it's still a manageable loss, and I still have my mental capacity to move on to the next position. So which is why keeping your position size small enough, so that when these single event risks, especially when you're trading in stocks, when these single event risks come and hit you, you will prepare for it. Cheryl says she can't hear me. If you guys can hear me, please just hit me up. Otherwise, Cheryl, the video will be up again on YouTube after in a few hours after the event. I do suspect that your audio settings on your device aren't configured correctly. Check your audio settings there. Thank you, Katleho. Rather Kabelo, sorry. So looking back at the open positions, I still have my absa position. I got a nice dividend. I didn't move my stop, to account for the dividend move, because it was already quite a bit of a distance away. So I didn't have to move my stop in anticipation of that dividend. So I'm going to be waiting for a close above that 158 level, and then I'll raise my stop to just below that traffic, just below these lows here, and perhaps that 50-day exponential moving average would have also caught up with me, and that stop loss will be just below that 50-day exponential moving average. The backs are looking quite nicely. I got a nice dividend as well today, about 32 odd rand dividend. Oh, it looks like this thing is not. Maybe this time will be better. Sorry guys, I was just trying to have a turn, not a greatest of networks. In any case, now I believe probably back. Great. I think Cheryl can hear me again. So Aspan moving quite to trade that starting to like quite a bit, starting to grow its weighting in the portfolio. Um, I apologize, guys. Technology today is not playing ball. So it broke out yesterday. I was anticipating for it to come back to retest that that upper end of the that channel trend line there, but it just powered through and kept on moving. So I'm gonna wait for a close above that 240 level and add to my position, raise it to around that 207. So I want to give it once when I find myself in a winning position, when I find myself in a stock that's actually just running, I like giving it a little bit more room that I normally would have. So when I close above that 240 level, I'll raise my stop to around that 207 level, just to give it a bit more room, and then add to my position, starting to grow this position quite nicely. Capitec looks like it's finding a bit of resistance there at what level is this? 1905. It's been finding some sellers for some time there around 1905 level. Perhaps if it makes a new high around that 1939, if it makes a new high there, I'll raise my stop to around. Let me just yeah, to around that 1847 level and add to my position. Starting banks generally they're moving quite nicely at the moment. Another stock that I quite like, I did write about it. You just search clicks on the VillageTrader website. I wrote a full analysis on clicks, moving quite nicely. Finding a bit of resistance there around the 306 level, but when the stock starts to enter into new record highs territory, I'm liking that quite a bit. So if you can break through that 306 level, I'll add to my position and raise my stop just below that traffic there on clicks. Coronation. So a symmetrical triangle usually needs to break two thirds of the way in to confirm as a continuous chart pattern, which in this case would have been on the short side, but it's went in much further into much more than two thirds into when you project that into that apex point. A couple of days ago, holding that 200-day exponential moving average with a bullish engulfing candle there. So which means the more likely a breakout would be on the upside. So the opposite would occur, which means the breakout was more likely to be on the upside. So I'm waiting for a close above that 52 rand 55 levels. The market is still a bit undecided at the moment on coronation, but I think the bulls the buyers are starting to win this battle. There you go. So Distel looked like it was breaking out today, but I'm still finding some sellers around that 180 level. It did look like it was breaking out today. I think about 30 to 40 minutes just before the close looked like it was breaking out, came back to close below 180. So I'm gonna wait for a break above that 180 and raise my stop to 171, and then add to my position. I'm gonna put another 5% risk on this position in suppose in anticipation of that Heineken deal. So at the moment I'm trading to still as if that high nickel deal doesn't exist. So I'm trading the way that I would have normally traded it with or without that high nickel deal. So Xaro breaking out a couple of days ago. Finally, so I got triggered into Xaro here, and slightly shortly after that, it was XDiv. It was a giant dividend. So I moved my stop quite. So I played this trade with regards to dividends quite well. And it just trailed my stop behind me as the price was recovering that dividend pricing. But there is another thing about 20 Rand dividend coming in at the end of this month. XDiv is, I think, 29th of this month. So I would need to readjust my stops again around Xaro. First Rand also moving quite nicely, repelling when as it was approaching that 50-day exponential moving average. So I'm waiting for a close above that 62.43 level, at which point I'll add to my position and raise my stop to around that 57, just below that 50-day exponential moving average. I want to give it a little bit, slightly bit more room. I did have a little bit temptation to target that 59 Rand level as a stop loss, but I use these lows as my target just to give it a bit of room, just in case we run into some volatility. Glencoe starting to move as well, starting to move again. I'm waiting for a close above that 69 Rand level, at which point I'll raise my stop to just below that 50-day exponential moving average, around that 64 Rand level, and perhaps 64.70, but 64 flat. It's a much more comfortable area for me to place my stop. Growth point. Currently under pressure, still fairly sideways, but holding the 200-day exponential moving average, acting as defense of the price on growth point. So I'm waiting for a close back above that 15 Rand level as it breaks out of that channel. It's been stuck there, but first it should. At least if it can win the battle with the 50-day exponential moving average, start to see some interesting stuff there, and a breakthrough that 15 Rand 73 level. We can start to see the stock running, but the property stocks are at the moment under pressure. I suppose the uncertainty of, are we going back to work from the offices? Are we not going back to are we going back to the offices or not? If we are, if we don't go back, what do they do with the office spaces? And doing hybrid. There's a lot of uncertainty in the property space, and I think until that uncertainty is cleared out, and then maybe more people start to vaccinate, and the country starts to get back to normal, property stocks and medical stocks will start to properly recover. But at the moment, let's see if the 200-day exponential moving average does indeed defend the price, and at some point the price trades back into the value of the companies, because these property stocks have they have properties, and these properties have value, and once the assets and liabilities match up, and we get the nice asset values, maybe the stock will trade back into the asset value. I'm not sure if it is trading around NAV or discount to NAV or at premium to NAV. I don't look at those things, but at a point the price is defended by the fundamentals of there's nothing more to lose. But I am not one to trade along those lines. Investec, it came quite close to stopping me out, and 50-day exponential moving average looks like it was saving my ass today. Um, Looks like it wants to come back into the higher box. I'll wait for it to break through that 62 level and then look to add to my position. At the moment, nothing special is happening on Investec. Life Healthcare, it has been moving quite nicely and quietly, unnoticeably in the background. Um, it had quite a rally if you zoom back a little bit. Um, uh, so I'm waiting for a close back above that 2482 level, and at which point I'll raise my stop to just below these lows. And I suppose as lockdown restrictions start to ease up and people get vaccinated, and like the pent up demand on voluntary surgery and that sort of thing will start to come back into the market, and these health stock will start to print money again. But we'll see what's going to happen in the future. I'm liking it's been trending up quite nicely and without any much volatility around. So yeah, a close above 2482. I'll add to my position and raise my stop to around the 23 and some change level. Momentum, still going nowhere slowly. It's been range bound for some time. It's just not, and I don't think it's gonna do anything special below the 20 rand 80 level. So if you can get above 20 rand 80, then I'll start to get a little bit I suppose I'm excited about this trade. But for now, I'm just watching the stock, cost me in swaps and do nothing in the meantime. MTN, another trade that I'm starting to like quite a bit, and it's starting to become a big a big holding into the portfolio. I think about 10%, 7% of the portfolio is now sitting in MTN with about 9% profit. So if I can break back above 133, I'll add to my position and raise my stop to just below that 50-day exponential moving average on MTN Group. Netbank, I also got a nice dividend around about 52 odd rand, 51, 52 odd rand on Netbank. Also, I didn't adjust my stop because my stop was fair bit of distance away already, so I didn't have to adjust my stop to in anticipation of that dividend. So now I'm just waiting for a close above that 188, at which point I'll raise my stop to just below these lows here, and just below today's low, just below that 50-day exponential moving average. And I think we'll really start to see these stocks run if I jump back into the weekly charts. Above that, if I zoom all the way out. So above that 184 level, as you can see, there was an area of memory in the past, and a strong memory at that. In the past. So yeah, I close above that 188 and 194 level would be quite significant, and then I think we'll start to see the stock. Sorry, I forgot to put this on silent. With the close above that 194, that's when we'll really start to see the stock to start to run. Nepiroc, I did adjust my stop a little bit to that low, and it looks like I need not have been worried because it did gap, but it gap closely to where my stop was, but it didn't touch it. But my stop was I couldn't gamble like that. So I put back my stop. Prices as recovered, closed that gap already. So above that 105 level, In fact, above that 107 level, I'll look to add again to my position and raise my stop behind me. At the moment, I don't have a place that I target to place my stop. Perhaps today's low just below that 50-day exponential moving average would be my stop, but we'll see between now and then if I find a much better place to place a stop loss. Netk. Starting to form a round base. Looks like sellers are running out of steam on that, tiny pull off there. So I wanted above that 1704 level, at which point I'll add to my position with a stop loss just below these lows here, around that 16 Rand and some change. And the level that I'm really waiting for is that 20 Rand 90 level. I'll be building my position until above that 20 Rand 90 level. But if you look at the longer term picture, we're starting to we have broken out, had a nice golden cross at the breakout of the down downtrend there. But we'll see. I think above that 20, in fact above that 1790 level, the stock will gain a bit of momentum there. Old Mutual came quite close to breaking out of this round base, but it hasn't as yet. If it does, I'll add to my position and raise my stop to just below these lows, or perhaps just to give it a little room at the start, around that 1426 level, just below that 50-day exponential moving average. But that's that 15 odd Rand level still looks like a safe place to place a stop, but we'll see. Perhaps tomorrow, depending on how the breakout happens. If it's a nice strong break, 15 Rand will be my stop. But if it's a shy breakout, I'll give it a bit more room around that 1420 level. Remgro, holding that 50-day exponential moving average quite nicely. So I'm waiting for a close above that high close there around that 123.95, at which point I'll add to my position and raise my stop behind me. I don't really have a place to place a stop as yet, but I'll see how the market looks like between now and that breakout. Sanlam also holding that 200-day and 50-day exponential moving average, bouncing off, waiting for a close up through that longer term ascending triangle base there. If we can break out that 64.92, I think we'll really start to see the stock run up to that 84 Rand level. But yeah, looking quite good, and perhaps that deal with MTN will be a catalyst to that price move. Sasso actually, playing out as I doped it out to be. Had that breakup of that 240 today. I'll be adding 1.5 shares tomorrow at the open, with a stop loss around that at 220. I did raise my stop just before we came in. I'll be entering Sasol as well. 1.5 shares of Sasol tomorrow, and I'll add again to my position once we break above that 250 level and raise my stop. Just inside there around the 235. Standard Bank also forming a roundish base. Also got a dividend from them today. Banks have been paying dividends today, so yeah, it's nice to get dividends at sometimes. I'll never complain about receiving money. So waiting for a close above that 148.50, at which point I'll add to my position and raise my stop to around that 139, 140-ish level. Transaction Capital broke into the new box yesterday, a couple of days ago, and came back to test the bottom of the higher box and holding it, staying inside that box. So now I'm gonna wait for close above that 40 rand 97, about 2 rand away from where we are at the moment. At which point then I'll add to my position and raise my stop behind me accordingly. And last but not least is Woolies. Woolies looks like it's coming back to test that 50-day exponential moving average, and we'll see if it holds the 50-day exponential moving average and come back to close above that. Above that 63.50 level. I'll add to my position with a stop loss to around that 58 rand 60 level. That's it on my open positions. If you guys have some questions, feel free to pop them in. If you have charts you want me to look at, feel free to pop them in. I'm gonna give it a sec or two. Otherwise, the video will be up in a couple of hours after this. And apologies for the podcast, which was meant to come out today, but I'm only doing the interview today straight after this. It will be out tomorrow, interviewing Michael, who goes by Vector Equilibrium on Twitter. So yeah, that video will be up. The podcast will be out tomorrow, and the video will be up later this evening. And again, the VillageTrader podcast now has a sponsor. We're sponsored by the podcast is now sponsored by Exness, and I'll be trading offshore indices and some FX with them. And if you want, they're quite good. Nice spread, nice fees, quick execution, and the transparent report on the. They report also on they publish a financial report on their website as well, on short, longs and shorts and that kind of thing. So yeah, the podcast, the first episode with that sponsorship will be out tomorrow. Otherwise, guys, I'm not seeing any questions. Like I said, video will be up in a bit. If you're not subscribed already, please do so. Hit the bell notification button so that you don't miss the videos. Otherwise, yeah, guys, stay safe. Thank you very much for joining us. Mr. Price, before we go in, let's quickly have Malo is looking for Mr. Price. Looks like it's finding that support. I think it's going to come to that 200-day exponential moving average if it doesn't hold this support. But I'm gonna start to rebuild this position above that 216 level, but at the moment I'm still sitting on the sidelines, but I'm liking how it's holding that longer term support. Look, the line of least resistance is pointing on the upside. Fortune wants me to look at African Rainbow Minerals. Where's African Rainbow? These platinum stocks and platinum miners have been having it rough, but most of them are quite close to support levels, and similarly, African Rainbow is also quite close to their support. I think we're going to see the stock bounce around that 225 level, and fundamentally, these companies are still relatively the same. It's just the market not having already priced in the great financial reports that came from these companies. But I think most of them will hold the support that they're chasing right now will hold in turn. But I don't think African Rainbow will do anything special below 340. If you're gonna be trading African Rainbow, rather have the 304 as a target. But if you want to hold it for a much longer term, rather wait for the stock to break that 304 level. So I'm gonna wait for the stock to break that 304 level, because I trade on the longer term basis. But if your target is the 304 level, I think I'd rather wait for a close back above the 200-day and the 50-day exponential moving average. Mediclinic. Let me just search it here. been dead flat, and I think it's starting to look quite bottomish. It's starting to look a little bit bottomish, and as I said, I think once the country starts to open up and people can go back to elective surgery, and revenue starts to kick back in these medical stocks, we'll see them start to run again. But I don't think it's gonna do anything special below that 77 rand. But if that 77 rand is your target, is not we're about to have a golden cross, a golden cross pattern here. But I think if you can break that 67 rand level, you can take a long to target that 77 rand level with a stop loss just below that low there, around 60 rand. Decent 2 to 1 risk reward ratio, not quite, but pretty close. Guys, any more chat requests? Cool. Thank you very much for the chat request, and thank you guys for coming through again. We'll do this again next week, same time, same place. Have a great evening, and trade well, stay safe, and trade with discipline, and enjoy the markets. We'll see you again next week. Cheers.